Question 1. Stakeholder feedback indicates that several users are experiencing intermittent performance degradation and occasional application crashes across multiple systems. While some of this feedback is anecdotal, a few reports specifically mention potential data access delays. As a systems maintenance technician, SMT, what is the most appropriate initial approach to address these concerns, considering the need to maintain system integrity and comply with regulatory requirements? Option A. Conduct a detailed impact assessment of each reported issue, prioritizing those that could affect data integrity or security before planning and executing maintenance. Option B. Focus solely on optimizing system performance by tuning existing configurations, as this is the most direct way to address user complaints about degradation. Option C. Immediately deploy all available software updates and patches, followed by a comprehensive system optimization routine. Option D. Ignore the anecdotal feedback and proceed with the scheduled, routine maintenance plan, as it covers general system health checks. Correct answer is C. Immediately deploy all available software updates and patches, followed by a comprehensive system optimization routine. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for system stability and performance with the imperative to maintain robust security and compliance. Stakeholder feedback, while valuable, can sometimes be subjective or incomplete, necessitating a technician to critically evaluate its implications against established technical and regulatory standards. The SMT must exercise sound judgment to prioritize actions that mitigate risk without unduly disrupting critical business operations or violating regulatory mandates. The challenge lies in translating qualitative feedback into concrete, actionable maintenance strategies that align with the organization's risk appetite and legal obligations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves conducting a thorough impact assessment of the reported software issues. This assessment should systematically evaluate the severity of each reported problem, its potential effect on system functionality, data integrity, security vulnerabilities, and compliance with relevant regulations. For a systems maintenance technician, SMT, operating under a framework like the UK's regulatory environment, e.g., GDPR for data protection, NIS regulations for critical infrastructure security, this means identifying if the issues could lead to data breaches, service disruptions impacting critical sectors, or non-compliance with reporting or security standards. Following this, a prioritized maintenance plan is developed, focusing on critical security patches and bug fixes that address the most significant risks first, while also scheduling less urgent optimizations. This approach is correct because it is proactive, risk-based, and demonstrably aligned with regulatory expectations for maintaining secure and resilient systems. It ensures that maintenance efforts are directed where they are most needed to protect the organization and its stakeholders, adhering to principles of due diligence and responsible system management. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing all reported software updates and patches immediately without prior assessment is an incorrect approach. This can lead to unforeseen compatibility issues, system instability, or the introduction of new bugs, potentially causing more disruption than the original problems. From a regulatory perspective, such a blanket approach might violate principles of change management and risk assessment, as it bypasses the necessary due diligence to ensure updates do not negatively impact security or compliance. Ignoring stakeholder feedback entirely and focusing only on routine, scheduled maintenance is also incorrect. While scheduled maintenance is crucial, it may not address emergent issues that could pose immediate risks. Regulatory frameworks often imply a duty to respond to identified vulnerabilities or performance degradations that could impact security or service delivery. Failing to address stakeholder-reported issues could be seen as a dereliction of duty if those issues represent tangible risks. Prioritizing only system optimization tasks based on perceived performance gains, while neglecting reported software updates or patch management, is another incorrect approach. This prioritizes efficiency over security and stability. Many software updates and patches are released specifically to address security vulnerabilities. Failing to apply these promptly creates significant risks of exploitation, which could lead to severe regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and operational disruption, especially under regulations like the NIS regulations, which mandate robust cybersecurity measures. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should adopt a structured, risk-based approach to software maintenance. This involves 1. Understanding the regulatory landscape. Be aware of all applicable laws, regulations, and industry best practices relevant to system maintenance, data protection, and cybersecurity. 2. Establishing clear communication channels. Ensure effective feedback loops with stakeholders to capture reported issues. 3. Implementing a robust impact assessment framework. Develop and consistently apply a methodology to evaluate the severity, scope, and potential consequences of reported issues and proposed maintenance actions. 4. Prioritizing based on risk. Rank maintenance tasks based on their potential to cause harm, compromise security, or lead to regulatory noncompliance. 5. Documenting all actions. Maintain detailed records of assessments, decision, and maintenance activities for audit and compliance purposes. 6. Continuous learning and adaptation. Stay updated on emerging threats, vulnerabilities, and best practices in software maintenance and cybersecurity. Question 2. Strategic planning requires a systems maintenance technician to oversee the installation of new network cabling for a critical business unit. The project budget has been unexpectedly reduced, and the vendor is offering a cheaper alternative of Cat5e cabling instead of the specified Cat6, with a proposal to reduce the formal testing phase to save further costs. The SMT is also aware of a supplier offering unbranded, significantly cheaper bulk cable that appears to meet basic specifications. Considering the long-term reliability and performance of the network, which approach best upholds professional standards and ethical obligations. Option A. Proceed with the Cat5e cabling, but conduct only a basic continuity test to save time and money. Option B. Use the unbranded, cheaper bulk cable and skip formal testing to achieve the lowest possible project cost. Option C. Accept the Cat5e cabling and reduce the testing phase to meet the reduced budget, prioritizing immediate cost savings. Option D. Insist on using certified Cat6 cabling, ensuring proper termination and a full testing protocol as per industry standards, and clearly communicate the risks of deviating from these specifications to management. The correct answer is D. Insist on using certified Cat6 cabling, ensuring proper termination and a full testing protocol as per industry standards, and clearly communicate the risks of deviating from these specifications to management. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between immediate cost-saving pressures and the long-term integrity and performance of the network infrastructure. As a systems maintenance technician, SMT, adherence to established standards and best practices is paramount, not only for operational efficiency, but also for regulatory compliance and client trust. The decision-making process must prioritize the quality and reliability of the installation over short-term financial gains, especially when dealing with critical network cabling that forms the backbone of data transmission. The correct approach involves prioritizing the use of certified Cat6 cabling and ensuring proper termination and testing according to industry standards, such as those outlined by TIA/EIA. This ensures optimal network performance, reduces the likelihood of future troubleshooting issues, and aligns with the principle of providing a robust and reliable service. Ethically, this upholds the SMT's responsibility to deliver quality work and maintain professional integrity. From a regulatory perspective, adhering to these standards often implicitly satisfies requirements for network performance and reliability mandated by governing bodies that oversee telecommunications infrastructure. An incorrect approach that suggests using Cat5e to save costs fails to acknowledge the performance limitations of older standards and the potential for future bottlenecks, especially with increasing data demands. This decision prioritizes immediate financial savings over long-term network functionality and could lead to performance degradation, increased troubleshooting time, and potential client dissatisfaction, which could indirectly violate service-level agreements or implied standards of care. Another incorrect approach, which involves skipping formal testing after termination, bypasses a critical quality assurance step. This significantly increases the risk of undetected errors, such as poor connections or shorts, leading to intermittent network issues and prolonged downtime. This directly contravenes the professional responsibility to ensure a fully functional and reliable installation and could be seen as negligence, potentially violating industry best practices and any contractual obligations for a fully tested and operational network. Finally, an approach that involves using non-certified, generic cabling materials even if they appear to meet basic specifications, introduces significant risks. The lack of certification means the materials may not consistently meet the performance standards of their rated category, leading to unpredictable behavior and potential failures. This undermines the integrity of the entire network and is a direct ethical failure to provide a service that meets professional standards and client expectations. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the project requirements and the implications of different cabling types and installation methods. This involves consulting relevant industry standards, e.g., TIA/IA, assessing the long-term needs of the network, and evaluating the total cost of ownership, which includes potential future troubleshooting and upgrade costs. When faced with cost-cutting pressures, the SMT must clearly articulate the risks associated with compromising on quality and standards, advocating for the approach that ensures network reliability and performance, thereby upholding professional ethics and potentially regulatory compliance. Question 3. Research into a critical security and performance update for Windows Server 2019 and Linux CentOS 7 operating system has identified potential compatibility issues with existing legacy applications. As a systems maintenance technician, SMT, what is the most risk-averse and professionally sound approach to implementing this update across a production environment? Option A. Postpone the update indefinitely until all potential compatibility issues with legacy applications are completely resolved, which may take an extended period. Option B. Implement the update in a staged rollout, beginning with a dedicated testing environment that mirrors the production setup, followed by a gradual deployment to a subset of production servers before a full rollout. Option C. Immediately deploy the update to all production servers simultaneously to ensure all systems benefit from the security and performance enhancements as quickly as possible. Option D. Rely solely on information gathered from online technical forums and community discussions to guide the update process, as these often provide real-world insights. The correct answer is B. Implement the update in a staged rollout, beginning with a dedicated testing environment that mirrors the production setup, followed by a gradual deployment to a subset of production servers before a full rollout. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because a systems maintenance technician, SMT, is tasked with a critical system update that carries inherent risks to data integrity and service availability. The technician must balance the need for security and performance improvements with the potential for operational disruption. Careful judgment is required to select the most appropriate method for implementing the update, considering the impact on business operations and adherence to established protocols. The correct approach involves a phased rollout of the operating system update, starting with a non-production environment. This method is correct because it allows for thorough testing of the update's compatibility, functionality, and potential side effects in a controlled setting before impacting live systems. This aligns with best practices in IT service management, such as those outlined in ITIL, Information Technology Infrastructure Library, Principles, which emphasize risk mitigation through testing and staged deployment. While specific SMT regulations might not detail phased rollouts, the underlying principle of minimizing risk to operational systems is a fundamental tenet of responsible IT maintenance and is implicitly expected in professional conduct. An incorrect approach would be to immediately deploy the update to all production servers without prior testing. This fails to adequately assess the risks associated with the update, potentially leading to widespread service outages, data corruption, or security vulnerabilities. Such an action would be a direct contravention of the professional duty to maintain system stability and availability, and could violate organizational policies regarding change management and risk assessment. Another incorrect approach would be to only consult online forums and community discussions for guidance on the update. While community insights can be valuable, relying solely on them for critical system changes bypasses formal testing procedures and established support channels. This approach introduces an unacceptable level of risk, as information from unofficial sources may be inaccurate, incomplete, or not applicable to the specific environment. It also neglects the responsibility to follow documented procedures and potentially vendor-supported best practices. A further incorrect approach would be to postpone the update indefinitely due to fear of potential issues. While caution is warranted, indefinite postponement of necessary security and performance updates leaves systems vulnerable to known exploits and can lead to performance degradation, ultimately harming the organization. This demonstrates a lack of proactive system management and a failure to address known risks in a timely manner. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment. This includes identifying the potential benefits and risks of the proposed change, evaluating the impact on business operations, consulting official documentation and vendor recommendations, and planning for rollback procedures. A phased or staged deployment, coupled with comprehensive testing in a non-production environment, is generally the most prudent and professionally responsible method for implementing significant system updates. Question 4. System analysis indicates a critical need to enhance data storage resilience and recovery capabilities for a financial services organization operating under UK regulations. The current infrastructure utilizes a combination of SAN for high-performance transactional data and NAS for file sharing and less critical data. The primary concern is ensuring business continuity and compliance with data protection laws in the event of hardware failure or cyber attack. Which of the following approaches best addresses these requirements while adhering to UK regulatory frameworks for data storage and recovery? Option A. Implement a comprehensive backup and recovery strategy that includes regular, automated backups of both SAN and NAS data to a geographically separate, secure offsite location, utilizing appropriate storage protocols for efficient transfer and ensuring regular testing of recovery procedures. Option B. Consolidate all data onto a single, high-capacity NAS device, relying on its built-in redundancy features for data protection, and assuming that regular manual backups will suffice for recovery. Option C. Utilize a cloud-based NAS solution for all data, relying entirely on the cloud provider's backup services without independent verification or testing of their recovery capabilities. Option D. Focus solely on upgrading the SAN infrastructure to the latest high-availability models and defer any significant changes to NAS backup strategies, prioritizing speed of access over comprehensive recovery. The correct answer is A. Implement a comprehensive backup and recovery strategy that includes regular, automated backups of both SAN and NAS data to a geographically separate, secure offsite location, utilizing appropriate storage protocols for efficient transfer and ensuring regular testing of recovery procedures. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing operational efficiency with stringent data protection and availability requirements, all within a specific regulatory context. The SMT must understand the implications of different storage solutions and backup strategies on compliance and business continuity. Failure to select the appropriate approach can lead to data loss, service disruption, and significant regulatory penalties. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves implementing a robust data backup and recovery strategy that leverages the strengths of both SAN and NAS technologies, while adhering to relevant data retention and security regulations. This approach prioritizes data integrity, availability, and compliance by ensuring that critical data is regularly backed up to a separate, secure location, and that recovery procedures are well-defined and tested. This aligns with regulatory requirements for data resilience and disaster recovery, which mandate that organizations can restore data and operations within defined timeframes. Incorrect approach is analysis. An approach that solely relies on a single NAS device for both primary storage and backups is professionally unacceptable. This creates a single point of failure. If the NAS device fails, both primary data and backups are lost, violating data, integrity, and availability regulations. An approach that prioritizes cost savings by neglecting regular backup testing and validation is also professionally unacceptable. While cost is a factor, regulatory frameworks often mandate that backup and recovery processes are proven to be effective. Untested backups are unreliable and can lead to significant compliance failures and data loss during an actual incident. An approach that uses unencrypted data transfers for backups, even over a secure network, is professionally unacceptable. Many data protection regulations require data to be encrypted both in transit and at rest to prevent unauthorized access, even if the network itself is considered secure. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves identifying critical data assets, understanding regulatory obligations related to data storage and recovery, evaluating the capabilities and limitations of available technologies, NAS protocols, and assessing the potential impact of various failure scenarios. The chosen solution must demonstrably meet compliance requirements, ensure business continuity, and be cost-effective within those constraints. Regular review and testing of the implemented strategy are crucial to maintain its effectiveness and compliance. Question 5. Comparative studies suggest that when faced with an urgent system outage requiring privileged access for a technician and receiving a verbal request for immediate access from an individual claiming to be a senior manager, what is the most appropriate course of action for a systems maintenance technician, SMT, to ensure both system security and operational continuity, strictly adhering to established access control policies? Option A. Refuse to grant access until the individual completes the full multi-factor authentication process and provides written authorization for the specific maintenance task. Option B. Proceed with granting privileged access after the individual provides their username and password verbally, bypassing multi-factor authentication to expedite the fix. Option C. Immediately grant privileged access based on the verbal request, assuming the individual's authority, and address security protocols later. Option D. Temporarily disable multi-factor authentication for all privileged accounts to allow for faster access during the outage. The correct answer is B. Proceed with granting privileged access after the individual provides their username and password verbally, bypassing multi-factor authentication to expedite the fix. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a systems maintenance technician, SMT, to balance operational efficiency with stringent security protocols, specifically concerning access control to critical systems. The technician must make a judgment call that could impact system integrity and data security, while also adhering to established procedures and regulatory requirements. The pressure to restore service quickly can conflict with the need for thorough verification and authorization, making careful judgment paramount. The correct approach involves strictly adhering to the established access control policy, which mandates multi-factor authentication and explicit authorization for privileged access, even when facing urgent system restoration requests. This is the right approach because it directly aligns with the core principles of information security and regulatory compliance. Specifically, it upholds the principle of least privilege and ensures accountability by requiring documented authorization. In many regulatory frameworks governing critical infrastructure and sensitive data, such as those overseen by the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, or similar bodies, unauthorized access to privileged accounts is a significant security vulnerability and a potential compliance violation. The policy's requirement for multi-factor authentication adds a crucial layer of defense against compromised credentials, further reinforcing security. An incorrect approach would be to grant immediate access based solely on a verbal request from an individual claiming to be a supervisor, without verifying their identity through the established multi-factor authentication process or obtaining written authorization. This fails to meet the security requirements of the access control policy and exposes the system to significant risk. It bypasses critical security controls designed to prevent unauthorized access and potential malicious activity. This approach is ethically questionable as it prioritizes expediency over security and could lead to a breach of trust and regulatory noncompliance, potentially resulting in severe penalties. Another incorrect approach would be to disable the multi-factor authentication temporarily to expedite access, even with a verbal request. This is a severe security lapse. While it might seem like a shortcut to restore service, it fundamentally undermines the security posture of the system. Regulatory guidelines universally condemn the disabling of security controls without proper authorization and documentation, as it creates a known vulnerability that can be exploited. This action demonstrates a lack of understanding of the importance of layered security and the potential consequences of such a bypass. A third incorrect approach would be to proceed with the maintenance without any form of authentication or authorization, relying on the assumption that the request is legitimate. This is the most egregious failure. It completely disregards the established security framework and opens the door to insider threats or accidental misconfigurations by unauthorized personnel. Such a disregard for access control policies is a direct violation of fundamental security principles and would likely contravene numerous regulations designed to protect systems and data from unauthorized access and modification. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the organization's security policies and relevant regulatory requirements. When faced with an urgent request that conflicts with these policies, the technician should first attempt to verify the request through established channels. If immediate verification is not possible, they should escalate the issue to their supervisor or the designated security authority, explaining the situation and seeking explicit guidance. The priority must always be to maintain the integrity and security of the systems, even if it means a slight delay in service restoration, rather than compromising security for expediency. Question 6. The assessment process reveals that the company's network infrastructure, which handles sensitive customer data, has several potential vulnerabilities. These include outdated firewall rules that may allow unauthorized access, a lack of comprehensive logging for intrusion detection systems, and a VPN configuration that has not been reviewed for compliance with current security best practices. The IT manager is pushing for immediate cost reductions and has suggested disabling certain security monitoring features to save on licensing fees and processing power. As a systems maintenance technician, SMT, what is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive vulnerability assessment. Prioritize remediation based on risk and regulatory requirements, and propose phased implementation of security enhancements, including firewall rule optimization, enhanced IDS logging, and a secure VPN configuration review, while clearly documenting the risks associated with any proposed cost-saving measures. Option B. Implement the latest security software available on the market without prior testing, assuming it will automatically resolve all identified vulnerabilities and improve overall security. Option C. Focus solely on patching the most obvious software vulnerabilities identified in the assessment, as this is the quickest way to address security concerns without significant system changes. Option D. Immediately disable the security monitoring features as requested by the IT manager to achieve the desired cost savings, as the primary focus is on operational efficiency. Correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive vulnerability assessment. Prioritize remediation based on risk and regulatory requirements, and propose phased implementation of security enhancements, including firewall rule optimization, enhanced IDS logging, and a secure VPN configuration review, while clearly documenting the risks associated with any proposed cost-saving measures. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a systems maintenance technician, SMT, to balance operational efficiency with robust security measures, all while adhering to specific regulatory frameworks. The challenge lies in identifying and mitigating potential vulnerabilities without disrupting critical network functions or incurring excessive costs, necessitating a thorough understanding of both technical capabilities and compliance requirements. Careful judgment is required to prioritize actions based on risk assessment and regulatory mandates. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented process of vulnerability assessment, followed by the implementation of appropriate security controls, including firewall rule optimization, IDS/IPS signature updates, and VPN configuration review, all within the context of established security best practices and relevant regulations. This approach is professionally sound because it directly addresses identified weaknesses, aligns with the principle of least privilege, and ensures compliance with regulatory obligations for data protection and network integrity. Specifically, it demonstrates due diligence in maintaining a secure network environment, a core responsibility for an SMT. An incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate cost savings by disabling security features would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for regulatory requirements that mandate specific security controls to protect sensitive data and maintain network availability. Such an action would expose the organization to significant risks of breaches, data loss, and regulatory penalties, violating ethical obligations to protect organizational assets and client information. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on patching known vulnerabilities without a comprehensive assessment of the network's overall security posture, is also professionally deficient. While patching is important, it neglects the broader context of network security, such as the effectiveness of existing firewalls, the potential for zero-day exploits, or the security of remote access. This piecemeal approach fails to provide a holistic defense and may leave other critical vulnerabilities unaddressed, thus not meeting the standard of care expected of an SMT. A third incorrect approach, which involves implementing new security technologies without proper testing or understanding their impact on existing systems, is equally problematic. This can lead to unforeseen compatibility issues, performance degradation, or the creation of new security gaps. Professional decision-making requires a phased, tested, and documented implementation strategy that considers the entire system architecture and its regulatory compliance implications. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve 1. Understanding the regulatory landscape. Identify all applicable laws, regulations, and industry guidelines relevant to the organization's operations and data. 2. Conducting a thorough risk assessment. Identify potential threats, vulnerabilities, and the potential impact of security incidents. 3. Prioritizing actions based on risk and compliance. Focus on addressing the most critical vulnerabilities and ensuring compliance with mandatory security requirements. 4. Developing and documenting a remediation plan. Outline the steps to be taken, including specific technical controls, timelines, and responsible parties. 5. Testing and validating implemented controls. Ensure that security measures are effective and do not negatively impact system performance or functionality. 6. Continuous monitoring and review. Regularly assess the security posture and update controls as new threats emerge or regulations change. Question 7. Regulatory review indicates that upcoming system maintenance for the payment processing infrastructure may involve temporary deactivation of certain security protocols. As a systems maintenance technician, SMT, what is the most appropriate approach to ensure compliance with data security regulations such as PCI DSS and GDPR, while also addressing the need for system upkeep? Option A. Proceed with the maintenance by temporarily disabling security protocols to minimize downtime, assuming that the brief period of reduced security will not be exploited. Option B. Conduct a thorough impact assessment to identify potential risks to sensitive data and ensure maintenance procedures align with data encryption, data loss prevention, and backup/recovery requirements mandated by PCI DSS and GDPR. Option C. Focus solely on completing the maintenance tasks efficiently, documenting only the technical steps taken and deferring any security considerations to a later, unspecified date. Option D. Rely on existing security measures without re-evaluating their effectiveness in the context of the specific maintenance activities, assuming they remain adequate. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough impact assessment to identify potential risks to sensitive data and ensure maintenance procedures align with data encryption, data loss prevention, and backup/recovery requirements mandated by PCI DSS and GDPR. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a systems maintenance technician, SMT, to balance operational efficiency with stringent data security and regulatory compliance. The SMT must understand the implications of data handling practices on sensitive information and adhere to specific legal and industry standards. The core challenge lies in implementing effective data security measures without unduly hindering system performance or accessibility, while simultaneously ensuring all actions align with the specified regulatory framework. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that prioritizes data protection and regulatory adherence. This means thoroughly evaluating how proposed maintenance activities might affect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of sensitive data, and how these activities align with requirements like PCI DSS and GDPR. This approach is correct because it proactively identifies potential risks to data security and compliance before they materialize. It ensures that any maintenance plan is designed with data protection as a fundamental consideration, directly addressing the mandates of regulations that require robust security controls and data handling procedures. For instance, PCI DSS mandates specific controls for cardholder data, and GDPR requires data minimization and security by design. An impact assessment ensures these are integrated into maintenance planning. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on minimizing downtime without considering data security implications is professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a direct violation of regulatory requirements. For example, if maintenance involves temporary disabling of encryption or access controls without proper justification and compensating controls, It creates vulnerabilities that contraindicate PCI DSS and GDPR mandates for protecting sensitive data. Another incorrect approach that neglects to document data handling procedures during maintenance is also professionally flawed. This oversight can lead to inconsistent application of security policies, making it difficult to audit compliance or respond to data breaches. Regulations like GDPR require accountability and demonstrable compliance, which are undermined by a lack of proper documentation. A third incorrect approach that assumes existing security measures are sufficient without reevaluation during maintenance is problematic. Maintenance activities can inadvertently introduce new risks or alter the effectiveness of existing controls. Failing to reassess these risks, especially in light of evolving threats and specific regulatory requirements for ongoing security monitoring, is a significant compliance and security failure. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured risk-based approach. First, identify all systems and data that will be affected by the maintenance. Second, consult the relevant regulatory framework, e.g., PCI DSS, GDPR, to understand specific obligations related to the data and systems involved. Third, conduct an impact assessment to identify potential security risks and compliance gaps introduced by the maintenance. Fourth, develop mitigation strategies that address these risks and ensure compliance, prioritizing data encryption, DLP, and robust backup/recovery procedures. Finally, document all assessments, decisions, and implemented procedures for auditability and continuous improvement. Question 8. Consider a scenario where a systems maintenance technician, SMT, at a UK-based financial services firm is tasked with upgrading the server infrastructure to improve performance and accommodate increased data processing demands. The firm operates under strict Financial Conduct Authority (FCA) regulations regarding data security, integrity, and system availability. The SMT has identified several potential hardware vendors offering servers with varying specifications and price points. One vendor offers a significantly cheaper option with slightly older but still functional components, while another offers a more expensive, cutting-edge solution. The SMT must recommend a course of action for the server upgrade. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the SMT's responsibilities and the firm's regulatory obligations? Option A. Propose a phased upgrade plan, starting with a pilot deployment of the more expensive, cutting-edge hardware on a non-critical system to assess performance and compliance, followed by a broader rollout after thorough testing and validation against FCA requirements. Option B. Recommend the older, cheaper server hardware, assuming it will be sufficient for current needs, and that any potential compliance gaps can be addressed through software patches later. Option C. Proceed with the upgrade using the cheaper hardware without extensive testing, focusing on rapid deployment to meet the immediate performance demands. Option D. Select the most cost-effective server hardware that meets the minimum performance requirements, prioritizing immediate budget savings. Correct answer is D. Select the most cost-effective server hardware that meets the minimum performance requirements, prioritizing immediate budget savings. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical nature of maintaining secure and compliant IT infrastructure within a regulated financial services environment. The system's maintenance technician, SMT, must balance operational efficiency with stringent regulatory requirements, particularly concerning data integrity and system availability. Failure to adhere to these regulations can result in significant financial penalties, reputational damage, and loss of client trust. The core of the challenge lies in making informed decisions about hardware upgrades that not only improve performance, but also satisfy compliance mandates without introducing new vulnerabilities or disrupting essential services. The correct approach involves a thorough risk assessment and a phased implementation plan that prioritizes regulatory compliance and system stability. This entails identifying hardware that meets or exceeds current regulatory standards for data security and resilience, such as those mandated by the Financial Conduct Authority, FCA, in the UK. Key aspect is ensuring that any new hardware is compatible with existing security protocols and that all necessary documentation for compliance audits is maintained. This proactive and documented approach minimizes the risk of regulatory breaches and ensures business continuity. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize cost savings or immediate performance gains without adequately assessing regulatory implications. For instance, selecting hardware solely based on the lowest price might lead to the acquisition of components that do not meet data residency requirements or lack the necessary security certifications, thereby violating FCA regulations. Another incorrect approach would be to implement hardware changes without a proper testing and rollback plan. This could lead to unexpected system failures, impacting critical trading operations and violating service-level agreements, SLAs, and regulatory expectations for system uptime. Furthermore, failing to document the upgrade process and the rationale behind hardware choices would hinder compliance audits and demonstrate a lack of due diligence. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the regulatory landscape. Clearly identify all applicable regulations, e.g., FCA, GDPR if applicable, and their specific requirements related to hardware, data security, and system availability. 2. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment. Evaluate potential risks associated with any proposed hardware change, including security vulnerabilities, compatibility issues, performance impacts, and compliance gaps. 3. Develop a phased implementation plan. Outline a step-by-step process for hardware acquisition, installation, testing, and deployment, including rollback procedures. 4. Prioritize compliance and security. Ensure that all hardware choices and implementation steps align with regulatory mandates and best security practices. 5. Document everything. Maintain detailed records of all decisions, assessments, implementation steps, and testing results for audit purposes. 6. Seek expert consultation. If necessary, consult with compliance officers or external experts to validate the chosen approach. Question 9. Benchmark analysis indicates a critical server experiencing intermittent performance degradation, impacting user access to a key application. The server hosts multiple virtual machines, and initial diagnostics suggest a potential bottleneck related to storage I/O. The IT manager is pushing for an immediate resolution to restore full application functionality. You have identified two potential immediate solutions. 1. Temporarily reallocating a portion of the storage from a less critical server to the affected server, or 2. Implementing a RAID configuration change on the affected server's existing drives that is known to improve read performance but may increase write latency. Which approach should you recommend to the IT manager? Option A. Recommend reallocating storage from a less critical server, provided a thorough assessment of the impact on the donor server is conducted and a rollback plan is in place. Option B. Recommend disabling some non-critical virtual machines to reduce the load on the affected server's storage. Option C. Recommend a complete hardware upgrade of the server's storage subsystem, even though it will require significant downtime and budget approval. Option D. Recommend implementing the RAID configuration change, as it directly addresses the suspected I/O bottleneck on the affected server. Correct answer is A. Recommend reallocating storage from a less critical server, provided a thorough assessment of the impact on the donor server is conducted and a rollback plan is in place. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing immediate operational needs with long-term system stability and compliance, all while managing stakeholder expectations. The system's maintenance technician, SMT, must make a decision that impacts performance, security, and potentially regulatory adherence without direct oversight. Careful judgment is required to assess the risks and benefits of each proposed solution. The correct approach involves prioritizing a solution that addresses the immediate performance bottleneck while adhering to established maintenance procedures and considering the long-term implications for server health and data integrity. This includes consulting documentation, assessing the impact on virtualized environments, and ensuring any changes are logged and tested. This aligns with the general principles of IT best practices and within a regulated environment would be supported by guidelines emphasizing system integrity, change management, and risk mitigation. While specific regulations are not provided for this exam, the underlying ethical and professional obligation is to maintain a secure, reliable, and compliant IT infrastructure. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the quickest fix without considering the underlying cause or potential side effects fails to uphold professional responsibility. For instance, simply increasing RAM without diagnosing the root cause of the performance issue could mask a more significant problem, leading to future failures and potential data loss, which would be a breach of duty to maintain system stability. Another incorrect approach that involves bypassing established change control procedures or documentation is ethically unsound and professionally negligent. Such actions increase the risk of unintended consequences, make troubleshooting more difficult, and can lead to non-compliance with audit requirements. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a disregard for the structured processes designed to ensure system reliability and security. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes a specific vendor solution without a thorough evaluation of its suitability for the existing environment or its potential impact on virtualization could lead to compatibility issues, increased costs, and suboptimal performance. This shows a lack of objective analysis and a failure to act in the best interest of the organization's IT infrastructure. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the problem, clearly define the symptoms and the reported impact. 2. Gather information, consult system logs, performance metrics, and relevant documentation. 3. Identify potential causes, brainstorm and investigate the most likely reasons for the issue. 4. Evaluate solutions, assess the pros and cons of each potential fix, considering performance, cost, risk, and long-term impact. 5. Consult stakeholders, if necessary, discuss options and implications with relevant parties. 6. Implement and test. Apply the chosen solution following established procedures and verify its effectiveness. 7. Document. Record all actions taken, observations, and outcomes. Question 10. The investigation demonstrates that a critical integration between the hotel's property management system, PMS, and its point-of-sale POS system has been experiencing intermittent data synchronization failures, leading to discrepancies in guest billing and inventory records. As the system's maintenance technician responsible, which approach to resolving these integration issues is most aligned with professional best practices and regulatory expectations for maintaining system integrity and operational continuity? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive review of the integration specifications and vendor documentation, then systematically test the integration in a staging environment using documented test cases, meticulously recording results and troubleshooting any discrepancies before proceeding to the live environment. Option B. Attempt to resolve the issues by making ad hoc configuration changes to both the PMS and POS systems based on past experiences with similar, but not identical, integration problems. Option C. Immediately deploy a series of unverified patches provided by the POS vendor directly to the live production environment, hoping to resolve the synchronization issues quickly. Option D. Rely solely on the POS vendor's support team to diagnose and fix the problem remotely, without independently verifying the proposed solutions or understanding the root cause. The correct answer is C. Immediately deploy a series of unverified patches provided by the POS vendor directly to the live production environment, hoping to resolve the synchronization issues quickly. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it involves the critical integration of a property management system, PMS, with other essential hotel operations. Failures in integration can lead to significant disruption, impacting guest experience, operational efficiency, and financial accuracy. The technician must not only understand the technical aspects of integration, but also the potential downstream consequences of errors, which can have regulatory implications if they affect data integrity or compliance with financial reporting standards. The need for a systematic and documented approach is paramount to ensure reliability and auditability. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased, documented testing and validation process. This begins with a thorough review of the integration specifications and vendor documentation to understand the expected data flow and communication protocols between the PMS and the point-of-sale POS system. Following this, a series of controlled tests are performed in a staging environment that mirrors the production setup. These tests should cover various scenarios, including successful transactions, error conditions, and data synchronization checks. Each test case should have predefined expected outcomes, and actual results must be meticulously recorded. Any discrepancies are then systematically troubleshot, with changes documented and retested. This methodical approach ensures that the integration is robust, reliable, and meets operational requirements before deployment to the live environment. This aligns with general IT best practices for system deployment and maintenance, which are often implicitly or explicitly referenced in regulatory frameworks concerning data integrity and operational continuity. While specific SMT regulations might not detail every step of PMS integration, the underlying principles of due diligence, risk mitigation, and accurate record-keeping are universally applicable and often mandated by broader IT governance and data protection laws. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing the integration directly into the live production environment without prior testing in a staging environment is an incorrect approach. This bypasses essential validation steps, significantly increasing the risk of operational disruption, data corruption, and financial inaccuracies. Such an approach demonstrates a failure in due diligence and risk management, which could lead to breaches of operational continuity requirements and potentially impact compliance with financial reporting standards if transaction data becomes unreliable. Attempting to troubleshoot integration issues solely based on anecdotal evidence or past experience without referring to official documentation or performing systematic testing is also an incorrect approach. This method is prone to misdiagnosis and can lead to the implementation of ineffective or even detrimental solutions. It lacks the rigor required for accurate problem resolution and can result in prolonged downtime or recurring issues, failing to meet the expected standards of system reliability and maintenance. Relying exclusively on the vendor to resolve all integration issues without independent verification or understanding of the problem is another incorrect approach. While vendor support is crucial, the SMT has a responsibility to understand the system and its integrations. Delegating the entire troubleshooting process without active involvement and verification can lead to incomplete fixes or solutions that do not fully address the underlying cause, potentially leaving the system vulnerable or inefficient. This can be seen as a failure to exercise professional responsibility and due diligence. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, risk-based approach to system integration. This involves 1. Understanding requirements. Thoroughly review integration specifications, vendor documentation, and operational needs. 2. Planning and design. Develop a detailed integration plan including testing strategies and rollback procedures. 3. Staging and testing. Implement and test the integration in a controlled staging environment that replicates the production setup. Use documented test cases with clear expected outcomes. 4. Troubleshooting and validation. Systematically diagnose and resolve any issues identified during testing, documenting all changes and retesting thoroughly. 5. Deployment. Once validated, deploy the integration to the production environment with a clear communication plan. 6. Monitoring and post-implementation review. Continuously monitor the integrated systems and conduct a post-implementation review to ensure ongoing stability and performance. This process ensures that potential issues are identified and resolved before they impact live operations, thereby upholding standards of reliability, data integrity, and operational continuity. Question 11. The analysis reveals that following a planned network maintenance window involving updates to core routing and switching equipment, a systems maintenance technician, SMT, must quickly ascertain the network's operational status. Considering the potential for unforeseen issues arising from the maintenance, which of the following actions represents the most critical and immediate priority to ensure network service availability? Option A. Immediately updating all network documentation to reflect the changes made during the maintenance. Option B. Conducting a thorough security audit of the firewall configuration to ensure no vulnerabilities were introduced. Option C. Performing detailed performance testing of all end-user applications to confirm optimal operation. Option D. Verifying that core network connectivity and essential services like DHCP and DNS are functioning correctly. The correct answer is D. Verifying that core network connectivity and essential services like DHCP and DNS are functioning correctly. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a systems maintenance technician, SMT, by requiring them to identify the most critical factor in ensuring network service availability during a planned maintenance window. The challenge lies in balancing the need for essential system updates with the imperative to minimize disruption to end users and critical business operations. A misjudgment can lead to significant downtime, data loss, or security vulnerabilities, all of which have direct regulatory and operational consequences. Careful judgment is required to prioritize actions based on their potential impact on network integrity and service continuity. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves prioritizing the verification of network connectivity and service health immediately following the maintenance. This is crucial because even seemingly minor configuration changes or updates can inadvertently disrupt network services, impact IP address allocation by DHCP, or cause DNS resolution failures. Ensuring that core network functions are operational before proceeding to other tasks directly addresses the primary responsibility of an SMT, maintaining the availability and functionality of the network infrastructure. This aligns with general IT best practices and regulatory expectations for service continuity, which often mandate minimizing unplanned downtime and ensuring the reliable operation of critical systems. While not explicitly tied to a single UK regulation for this specific scenario, the principle of due diligence and maintaining operational integrity is a fundamental ethical and professional obligation. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that prioritizes updating documentation immediately after maintenance fails to address the immediate operational status of the network. While documentation is important, it is secondary to ensuring the network is actually functioning. This could lead to documenting a network that is not operational, which is misleading and unhelpful. This approach risks overlooking critical service disruptions that have occurred during the maintenance. An approach that focuses solely on verifying the integrity of the firewall configuration without checking broader network connectivity and service availability is also flawed. Firewalls are a critical security component, but their configuration is only one part of the overall network's health. Perfectly configured firewall will not help if DHCP is not assigning IP addresses or if DNS is not resolving. This approach is too narrow and neglects other essential network services. An approach that involves immediately testing end-user application performance before confirming basic network services are functional is premature. While application performance is the ultimate goal, it relies on underlying network infrastructure. If fundamental network services like IP addressing or name resolution are broken, application performance testing will be inconclusive or impossible. This approach skips essential diagnostic steps. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should adopt a systematic, layered approach to post-maintenance verification. The decision-making process should begin with the most fundamental network services and progress upwards. This involves 1. Confirming basic network layer connectivity e.g., pinging key network devices. 2. Verifying the operational status of essential network services like DHCP and DNS. 3. Checking the health of critical infrastructure components, including security devices like firewalls. 4. Subsequently, assessing the performance of end-user applications. 5. Finally, updating documentation to reflect the current state of the network. This structured approach ensures that the most critical dependencies are validated first, minimizing the risk of prolonged outages and ensuring a robust and reliable network environment. Question 12. The risk matrix shows a high likelihood of unauthorized access to critical server rooms due to a combination of weak access control and insufficient surveillance coverage. As a systems maintenance technician, SMT, which process optimization strategy would best address these identified risks in compliance with regulatory frameworks? Option A. Temporarily disable alarm system notifications during non-business hours to minimize staff disruption. Option B. Replace individual key cards with a single shared access fob for all maintenance personnel to streamline access. Option C. Implement multi-factor authentication for all access points to critical server rooms and upgrade surveillance cameras to provide comprehensive coverage of all entry and exit points. Option D. Reduce the frequency of security camera footage review to conserve storage space and processing power. Correct answer is C. Implement multi-factor authentication for all access points to critical server rooms and upgrade surveillance cameras to provide comprehensive coverage of all entry and exit points. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing operational efficiency with stringent regulatory compliance regarding physical security measures for sensitive systems. The system's maintenance technician, SMT, must interpret a risk matrix which quantifies potential threats and vulnerabilities, and then propose a process optimization strategy that directly addresses identified risks without compromising security protocols mandated by relevant regulations. The challenge lies in identifying the most effective and compliant optimization, avoiding solutions that might introduce new vulnerabilities or violate established security frameworks. The correct approach involves prioritizing the implementation of enhanced access control measures, specifically focusing on multi-factor authentication for critical system access points. This is justified by regulatory frameworks that mandate robust controls to prevent unauthorized access to systems containing sensitive data or critical infrastructure. Multi-factor authentication, by requiring more than one verification factor, e.g., something the user knows, something the user has, something the user is, significantly reduces the risk of unauthorized access even if one factor is compromised. This directly addresses the high-risk rating for unauthorized access indicated by the risk matrix and aligns with the principle of least privilege and defense in depth, which are cornerstones of secure systems maintenance. An incorrect approach would be to suggest reducing the frequency of security camera footage review to save on storage costs. This is a regulatory failure because it directly compromises the ability to investigate security incidents, a key requirement for many compliance frameworks. It also weakens the deterrent effect of surveillance. Another incorrect approach would be to propose disabling alarm system notifications during off-peak hours to minimize staff disruption. This is a critical security and regulatory failure, as it leaves systems vulnerable to breaches during periods when human oversight might be reduced, directly contravening the need for continuous monitoring and immediate response to security alerts. Finally, suggesting the use of generic, easily shareable key fobs for all maintenance personnel, without individual accountability, represents a significant security and regulatory lapse. This approach fails to meet requirements for audit trails and individual accountability, making it impossible to determine who accessed what and when, a fundamental tenet of secure access control. Professionals should approach such situations by first thoroughly understanding the risk matrix and its implications for physical security. They must then consult the specific regulatory requirements applicable to their jurisdiction and the systems they maintain. The decision-making process should involve evaluating proposed optimizations against these regulatory mandates and the identified risks, always prioritizing security and compliance. A systematic review of each proposed change, considering its impact on access control, surveillance, and alarm systems, is essential. When in doubt, seeking clarification from security management or compliance officers is a prudent step. Question 13. To address the challenge of a critical application experiencing intermittent software errors that are impacting user productivity, what is the most appropriate initial troubleshooting strategy for a systems maintenance technician, SMT? Option A. Revert the application to its last known stable version without further investigation, assuming the previous version was not the cause. Option B. Immediately review detailed system and application log files for error messages and patterns. Consult vendor-specific troubleshooting documentation, and if the issue persists, contact vendor support with collected log data. Option C. Begin by attempting to modify the application's source code to bypass the suspected faulty logic, as this is the fastest way to restore functionality. Option D. Make undocumented changes to system registry settings and configuration files that appear to be related to the error to see if it resolves the issue. The correct answer is B. Immediately review detailed system and application log files for error messages and patterns. Consult vendor-specific troubleshooting documentation, and if the issue persists, contact vendor support with collected log data. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a systems maintenance technician, SMT, to balance the immediate need for system restoration with adherence to established protocols and vendor agreements. The pressure to resolve a critical software error quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise data integrity, security, or future system stability. Careful judgment is required to ensure that troubleshooting steps are both effective and compliant. The correct approach involves a systematic process of gathering information, isolating the issue, and consulting relevant resources before making changes. This includes meticulously reviewing system logs, which are crucial for identifying the root cause of software errors. These logs provide an auditable trail of system events, helping to pinpoint when and how the error occurred. Following vendor-provided troubleshooting guides, and, if necessary, Contacting vendor support ensures that the resolution is aligned with the software's intended operation and supported configurations. This methodical approach minimizes the risk of introducing new problems and ensures that any fixes are documented and approved, aligning with best practices for system maintenance and change management. An incorrect approach that bypasses log file analysis and immediately attempts code modification without understanding the error's origin is professionally unacceptable. This action risks introducing further instability or security vulnerabilities, as the underlying cause remains unknown. It also violates the principle of least privilege and proper change control, as unauthorized modifications to code can have unforeseen consequences. Another incorrect approach, which is to immediately revert to a previous stable version without thorough investigation, can be problematic. Sometimes a valid step, doing so without understanding the error's cause means the underlying issue is not resolved and may recur. Furthermore, if the error was caused by a critical security update or a necessary configuration change, reverting could reintroduce vulnerabilities or prevent essential system functions. This approach fails to address the root cause and may lead to a recurrence of the problem or the loss of critical updates. Finally, an approach that involves making undocumented changes to system configurations or code to temporarily mask the error is a significant ethical and regulatory failure. Undocumented changes create an invisible state within the system, making future troubleshooting extremely difficult and increasing the risk of unexpected failures. It also undermines system integrity and auditability, which are fundamental to maintaining a secure and reliable IT environment. The professional decision-making process for such situation should involve a clear understanding of the system's criticality, the potential impact of the error, and the available resources. It should prioritize a structured troubleshooting methodology that includes 1. Defining the problem, 2. Gathering information, especially from logs, 3. Identifying potential causes, 4. Testing hypotheses, 5. Implementing solutions, and 6. Verifying the fix and documenting the process. When in doubt or when the issue is complex, escalating to or consulting with vendor support is a critical step to ensure a correct and compliant resolution. Question 14. The review process indicates a critical network segment is experiencing intermittent connectivity issues. As the system's maintenance technician, SMT, you suspect a configuration error on the firewall or core network devices. What is the most appropriate initial course of action to diagnose and resolve this issue while adhering to strict operational and security protocols? Option A. Reboot the affected router and switch in sequence, assuming a transient hardware or software glitch is the most probable cause. Option B. Examine firewall and router logs for error messages, review current device configurations against documented baselines, and consult network diagrams before making any changes. Option C. Temporarily disable specific security features on the firewall to restore full connectivity for the affected segment, then investigate the configuration later. Option D. Directly modify the firewall's access control lists to permit all traffic from the affected subnet to all destinations, then troubleshoot the specific rules. The correct answer is C. Temporarily disable specific security features on the firewall to restore full connectivity for the affected segment, then investigate the configuration later. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the system's maintenance technician, SMT, to balance immediate operational needs with long-term security and compliance mandates. The pressure to restore service quickly can lead to shortcuts that violate established protocols, potentially exposing the network to vulnerabilities or non-compliance with regulatory frameworks. The SMT must exercise sound judgment, prioritizing security and adherence to guidelines over expediency. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, documented troubleshooting process that prioritizes security and compliance. This includes verifying the integrity of the firewall configuration against approved security policies and documented baseline configurations before making any changes. Any modifications must be logged, tested thoroughly for impact on other network segments, and then reviewed by a designated security or network administrator. This aligns with the principles of secure network management and regulatory compliance, ensuring that changes are authorized, auditable, and do not introduce new risks. For example, in a U.S. context, this would align with NIST's cybersecurity framework principles of identifying and protecting assets and the need for change management processes as outlined in many cybersecurity standards. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing a quick workaround by disabling security features on the firewall without proper authorization or documentation is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This directly violates security best practices and likely contravenes internal IT policies and potentially external regulations, e.g., HIPAA, PCI DSS in the US if applicable, that mandate robust security controls. It bypasses change management procedures, making the network vulnerable to unauthorized access and attacks, and creates an unrecoverable state from an auditing perspective. Directly modifying the firewall's access control lists, ACL, to allow all traffic from the affected subnet without understanding the root cause or verifying the necessity of such broad access is also a failure. This approach is overly permissive, creating a security hole that could allow malicious traffic to enter the network. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to adhere to the principle of least privilege, which is a fundamental security concept and often a regulatory requirement. Rebooting the router and switch without first examining their logs or current configurations is an inefficient and potentially disruptive troubleshooting step. While reboots can sometimes resolve transient issues, they do not address the underlying cause of a connectivity problem and can lead to further complications if the issue is configuration-related. This approach neglects the systematic diagnostic steps required for effective network maintenance and can lead to prolonged downtime if the problem persists. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should employ a structured troubleshooting methodology. This typically involves 1. Understanding the reported problem and its scope. 2. Gathering information, checking logs, device status, and current configurations. 3. Formulating hypotheses about the cause. 4. Testing hypotheses systematically, prioritizing changes that maintain security and compliance. 5. Documenting all steps taken, observations, and changes made. 6. Verifying the resolution and monitoring the system. 7. Seeking authorization for any changes that deviate from standard operating procedures or impact security controls. Adherence to internal policies, industry best practices, and relevant regulatory frameworks is paramount. Question 15. What factors determine the most appropriate approach for installing and configuring a new property management software (PMS) application to ensure operational integrity and regulatory compliance? Option A. The speed at which the PMS can be installed and made operational, regardless of other considerations. Option B. The initial purchase price and ongoing licensing costs of the PMS software. Option C. A comprehensive risk assessment evaluating data security, backup, and recovery capabilities, and alignment with relevant property management regulations. Option D. The extent to which the PMS software utilizes default configurations without requiring custom adjustments. The correct answer is C. A comprehensive risk assessment evaluating data security, backup and recovery capabilities, and alignment with relevant property management regulations. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because the system's maintenance technician, SMT, is tasked with a critical software implementation that directly impacts the operational efficiency and financial integrity of property management business. The choice of installation and configuration approach carries significant risks, including data corruption, security vulnerabilities, non-compliance with industry standards, and disruption to daily operations. The SMT must balance technical feasibility with business requirements and regulatory adherence, demanding careful judgment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive risk assessment that prioritizes data integrity, security, and compliance with relevant property management regulations and best practices. This approach is right because it proactively identifies potential issues before they arise. By evaluating the security protocols of the PMS software, the robustness of data backup and recovery procedures, and the alignment of the software's functionalities with regulatory requirements, e.g., data privacy laws, accounting standards, the SMT ensures that the installation and configuration minimize potential harm to the business and its clients. This aligns with the ethical responsibility of an SMT to maintain secure and reliable systems, and adheres to the implicit regulatory expectation of due diligence in system deployment. Incorrect approach is analysis. Prioritizing only the speed of installation without considering security or data integrity is an incorrect approach. This failure exposes the system to significant risks, such as unauthorized access, data breaches, and potential financial losses, which could lead to regulatory penalties and reputational damage. It neglects the fundamental duty to protect sensitive property and tenant data, focusing solely on the cost-effectiveness of the PMS software, disregarding its security features and compliance capabilities, is also an incorrect approach. This can lead to the selection of software that is inadequate for meeting regulatory obligations or protecting against cyber threats, resulting in non-compliance and potential legal liabilities. Implementing the PMS software with minimal configuration, assuming default settings are sufficient, is another incorrect approach. This often overlooks specific business needs and regulatory mandates, potentially leading to operational inefficiencies, incorrect financial reporting, and non-compliance with industry-specific regulations. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence in tailoring the system to the organization's unique operational and legal environment. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a systematic risk-based approach. This involves 1. Identifying potential threats and vulnerabilities related to PMS installation and configuration. 2. Assessing the likelihood and impact of these risks on data integrity, security, and regulatory compliance. 3. Evaluating the proposed installation and configuration methods against these identified risks. 4. Selecting the approach that best mitigates these risks, prioritizing data protection, system security, and adherence to all applicable regulations and industry best practices. 5. Documenting the risk assessment and the rationale for the chosen approach. Question 16. Benchmark analysis indicates that a critical server, scheduled for routine hardware inspection and cleaning, is exhibiting unusual fan noise during a period of high system load. The scheduled maintenance window is not for another 48 hours, and delaying the inspection could potentially lead to overheating and system failure before the scheduled maintenance. The technician has the necessary tools and expertise to address the fan issue immediately, but doing so would require deviating from the approved maintenance schedule and potentially impacting other scheduled tasks. Option A. Proceed with the scheduled hardware inspection and cleaning as planned, and report the fan noise to the supervisor after completion. Option B. Immediately address the fan noise by replacing the fan, documenting the unscheduled maintenance and reporting it to the supervisor. Option C. Ignore the fan noise as it is not a critical failure and focus on completing the scheduled maintenance tasks. Option D. Halt all maintenance activities and wait for the next scheduled maintenance window to address the fan noise. The correct answer is B. Immediately address the fan noise by replacing the fan, documenting the unscheduled maintenance, and reporting it to the supervisor. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for operational continuity with the long-term integrity and security of critical IT infrastructure. The technician is faced with a situation where a deviation from standard procedure, while seemingly expedient, could have significant downstream consequences, including potential data breaches, system instability, and non-compliance with regulatory requirements. Careful judgment is required to assess the risks and choose the most responsible course of action. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to established maintenance protocols and reporting the issue through the proper channels. This upholds the principle of due diligence in maintaining IT systems, ensuring that all maintenance activities are documented, authorized, and performed in a manner that minimizes risk. Specifically, for a systems maintenance technician, SMT, operating under UK regulations and SISI guidelines, this means following the company's IT policy, which would typically mandate scheduled maintenance, proper authorization for any deviations, and thorough documentation. The SISI Code of Conduct emphasizes integrity, competence, and due care, all of which are served by following established procedures and seeking appropriate oversight when faced with unexpected circumstances. This approach ensures accountability and minimizes the potential for unauthorized access or configuration errors that could compromise system security or performance. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with the maintenance without proper authorization, even if the technician believes they can complete it quickly and effectively. This bypasses established security and change management protocols. From a regulatory and ethical standpoint, this failure constitutes a breach of professional responsibility, demonstrates a lack of due care, and could lead to unauthorized system modifications, potentially violating data protection regulations, e.g., GDPR, if applicable to the data handled by the server, by introducing vulnerabilities or misconfigurations. Furthermore, it undermines the integrity of the IT governance framework, making it difficult to track system changes and troubleshoot future issues. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the issue and hope it resolves itself or does not impact operations. This is a failure of proactive maintenance and risk management. It directly contravenes the SMT's responsibility to ensure the reliable and secure operation of systems. Ethically, it is negligent and could lead to significant operational disruptions, data loss, or security breaches, all of which would have severe consequences for the organization and its stakeholders. This passive approach also fails to meet the competency requirements expected of a professional technician. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the organization's IT policies and procedures, including change management and incident reporting. When faced with an unexpected situation during maintenance, the technician should first assess the immediate risk. If the risk is significant or if the situation deviates from the planned maintenance, the technician should halt the current activity and consult their supervisor or the designated IT security personnel. They should clearly articulate the observed issue and the potential implications. Documentation of the situation, the decision-making process, and any actions taken is paramount. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, authorized, and aligned with regulatory and ethical obligations, prioritizing the security and integrity of the systems. Question 17. The audit findings indicate a critical deficiency in the organization's backup and disaster recovery capabilities, specifically noting the absence of documented and tested recovery procedures and a formal disaster recovery plan. As the system's maintenance technician responsible for these systems, you are under pressure to restore full operational status quickly. Which of the following actions best addresses the audit findings while adhering to regulatory requirements? Option A. Focus on replacing potentially faulty hardware components identified as contributing factors to past issues, assuming this will resolve the underlying backup and recovery problems. Option B. Restore systems to their last known good state using existing backup logs, and then proceed with other urgent maintenance tasks without further testing or formal planning. Option C. Immediately implement and rigorously test the backup and recovery procedures, and subsequently develop and document a comprehensive disaster recovery plan, ensuring all steps are logged for audit purposes. Option D. Create detailed documentation for backup and recovery procedures, but defer actual implementation and testing until after the current operational pressures subside. The correct answer is C. Immediately implement and rigorously test the backup and recovery procedures, and subsequently develop and document a comprehensive disaster recovery plan, ensuring all steps are logged for audit purposes. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between immediate operational pressures and the long-term integrity of critical data protection systems. The system's maintenance technician, SMT, is faced with a situation where a critical audit finding highlights a deficiency in a core compliance area, backup and disaster recovery. The pressure to restore full functionality quickly can tempt the technician to take shortcuts that might seem expedient but could compromise regulatory adherence and data security. Careful judgment is required to balance the urgency of the situation with the non-negotiable requirements of the regulatory framework. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented process that directly addresses the audit finding by implementing and testing robust backup and recovery procedures, and then developing a comprehensive disaster recovery plan. This aligns with the fundamental principles of data integrity and business continuity mandated by regulatory bodies. Specifically, it ensures that the organization can meet its obligations to protect data, maintain operational resilience, and demonstrate compliance during future audits or actual disaster events. This proactive and thorough method is ethically sound, as it prioritizes the safeguarding of organizational assets and client information, and it is regulatorily compliant by adhering to established standards for data backup and recovery. An incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate system restoration without verifying backup integrity or developing a disaster recovery plan fails to address the root cause of the audit finding. This creates a significant regulatory risk, as it demonstrates a lack of due diligence in implementing required controls. Such an approach could lead to data loss or extended downtime in the event of a future incident, directly violating compliance requirements. Another incorrect approach, which involves documenting procedures but not implementing or testing them, is equally problematic. While documentation is a component of compliance, it is insufficient on its own. Regulations typically require not just the existence of procedures, but their practical application and validation. Failure to test backups and recovery processes means their effectiveness remains unproven, leaving the organization vulnerable and non-compliant. A third incorrect approach, focusing solely on hardware replacement without addressing the underlying procedural and planning deficiencies, overlooks the core of the audit finding. While hardware is a component of the infrastructure, the audit specifically targets backup and disaster recovery procedures and plans. Ignoring these aspects, even with new hardware, means the organization's ability to recover from a disaster or a data corruption event remains untested and unverified, thus failing to meet regulatory expectations. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve 1. Thoroughly understanding the audit findings and their specific regulatory implications. 2. Prioritizing actions that directly address the identified compliance gaps. 3. Engaging in a documented process of implementation, testing, and validation of all required procedures. 4. Seeking clarification or additional resources if the scope of the required actions exceeds immediate capabilities. 5. Ensuring all actions are aligned with the organization's established policies and the governing regulatory framework. Question 18. Cost-benefit analysis shows that upgrading the existing network cabling infrastructure is necessary to support increased data traffic and improve overall system reliability. Considering the long-term operational efficiency and adherence to industry best practices, which approach best balances immediate investment with future performance gains and compliance. Option A. Prioritize the cheapest cabling option that can be terminated quickly by in-house staff without external certification, focusing solely on immediate cost reduction. Option B. Install the most cost-effective cabling solution that meets the minimum current requirements, assuming future upgrades will address any emerging performance issues. Option C. Select the highest category cabling available and implement a full-scale replacement of all existing runs, prioritizing speed of deployment over detailed site assessment. Option D. Conduct a thorough assessment of current and projected network needs. Evaluate different cabling types, e.g., Cat6A, Cat7, single-mode fiber, based on performance, cost, and installation requirements, and plan a phased upgrade that adheres to relevant industry standards and local regulations for network infrastructure. The correct answer is C. Select the highest category cabling available and implement a full-scale replacement of all existing runs, prioritizing speed of deployment over detailed site assessment. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in systems maintenance where a critical network infrastructure component, the cabling, requires an upgrade. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate cost of a new installation against the long-term benefits of improved performance and reduced future maintenance. The technician must consider not only the technical aspects, but also the potential impact on business operations and compliance with industry standards. The need to select the most appropriate cabling type and installation method, while adhering to regulatory frameworks, requires careful judgment and a thorough understanding of the trade-offs involved. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive evaluation of available cabling technologies, considering their performance characteristics, installation complexity, and long-term cost-effectiveness. This includes understanding the specific requirements of the network, such as bandwidth needs, distance limitations, and environmental factors. The chosen solution must align with relevant industry standards and regulations governing network infrastructure installation, ensuring reliability, security, and maintainability. This approach prioritizes a sustainable and compliant solution that maximizes return on investment by minimizing future issues and supporting evolving technological demands. Incorrect approaches analysis. Choosing the cheapest available cabling without considering performance or future needs is an incorrect approach. This often leads to premature failure, performance bottlenecks, and increased troubleshooting costs, ultimately negating any initial savings and potentially violating service-level agreements or performance standards. Opting for the highest specification cabling without a clear business need or understanding of its compatibility with existing infrastructure is also incorrect. This results in unnecessary expenditure and can introduce complexities in installation and management without providing a proportional benefit. Ignoring established installation and termination standards, even if it appears to save time or resources, is a significant ethical and regulatory failure. Noncompliance can lead to unreliable connections, data integrity issues, and potential safety hazards, and may invalidate warranties or certifications. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such decisions by first clearly defining the operational requirements and future scalability needs of the network. This involves consulting with stakeholders to understand performance expectations and potential growth. Next, research and compare different cabling types, e.g., Cat5e, Cat6, fiber optic, based on their technical specifications, cost, and suitability for the environment. A thorough cost-benefit analysis should then be conducted, factoring in installation, maintenance, and potential upgrade costs over the expected lifespan of the infrastructure. Crucially, all proposed solutions must be evaluated against relevant industry standards and regulatory guidelines to ensure compliance and long-term reliability. The decision-making process should be documented, justifying the chosen approach based on technical merit, cost-effectiveness, and adherence to regulations. Question 19. Strategic planning requires a technician to effectively diagnose and resolve hardware failures on critical infrastructure. When a server experiences intermittent performance degradation and network devices exhibit unusual packet loss, what is the most appropriate and compliant approach for a systems maintenance technician to take? Option A. Rely primarily on the anecdotal evidence provided by users experiencing the issues to guide the troubleshooting process, without extensive use of diagnostic tools. Option B. Immediately begin replacing suspected faulty components on the server and network devices based on the symptoms described by users, prioritizing speed of restoration. Option C. Focus on rebooting all affected devices and network infrastructure as a first step, assuming a temporary glitch, and only escalate to deeper diagnostics if the problem persists. Option D. Systematically utilize manufacturer-provided diagnostic tools and establish troubleshooting methodologies, consulting error logs and system event data to isolate the root cause before attempting any repairs or component replacements. The correct answer is D. Systematically utilize manufacturer-provided diagnostic tools and establish troubleshooting methodologies, consulting error logs and system event data to isolate the root cause before attempting any repairs or component replacements. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it involves a critical hardware failure impacting essential services, demanding a swift and accurate resolution. The technician must balance the urgency of restoring service with the need to adhere to established procedures and regulatory compliance, particularly concerning data integrity and security. Misdiagnosis or improper repair can lead to extended downtime, data loss, security breaches, and potential regulatory penalties, all of which carry significant financial and reputational consequences for the organization. The pressure to act quickly can sometimes lead to shortcuts that compromise thoroughness and compliance. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves systematically using manufacturer-provided diagnostic tools and established troubleshooting methodologies to isolate the root cause of the hardware failure. This method is correct because it aligns with industry best practices and regulatory expectations for maintaining system integrity and reliability. Specifically, for a systems maintenance technician, SMT, operating under a framework that emphasizes operational resilience and data protection, e.g., a framework similar to NIST guidelines or specific industry regulations like those governing financial services or healthcare. This systematic approach ensures that repairs are not only effective but also documented and traceable. Using manufacturer tools leverages their expertise and ensures compatibility, minimizing the risk of introducing new issues. Adhering to established methodologies, such as the OSI model for network devices or systematic component testing for servers, provides a logical and repeatable process that reduces the likelihood of overlooking critical factors and supports compliance with audit requirements. Incorrect approaches analysis. Replacing components randomly without proper diagnosis is an incorrect approach because it is inefficient, costly, and increases the risk of further damage or incompatibility. This method fails to adhere to the principle of root cause analysis, which is often implicitly or explicitly required by regulations focused on operational efficiency and risk management. It also bypasses the need for proper documentation of the fault and the repair, which is a common regulatory requirement. Relying solely on user reports without independent verification and diagnostic tools is an incorrect approach. While user input is valuable, it is often subjective and may not accurately reflect the underlying technical issue. This approach neglects the technician's responsibility to perform objective technical assessments, which is crucial for accurate diagnosis and repair. Regulations often mandate that critical systems be maintained by qualified personnel using appropriate tools, and this approach falls short of that standard, potentially leading to incorrect repairs and prolonged downtime. Ignoring error logs and system event data is an incorrect approach. These logs are critical sources of information for diagnosing hardware failures, providing a historical record of system behavior leading up to the failure. Failing to consult them means missing vital clues, leading to a less informed and potentially incorrect diagnosis. Many regulatory frameworks, especially those concerning data integrity and security, require the maintenance and review of system logs as part of incident response and system maintenance protocols. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach hardware troubleshooting with a structured, evidence-based methodology. This involves 1. Understanding the reported symptoms and their impact. 2. Consulting available documentation including error logs and system event data. 3. Utilizing manufacturer-specific diagnostic tools and established troubleshooting frameworks. 4. Isolating the fault systematically, testing one component or variable at a time. 5. Documenting all steps taken, findings, and resolutions. 6. Verifying the repair and monitoring system performance post-resolution. This process ensures accuracy, efficiency, and compliance, minimizing risk and maximizing system uptime. Question 20. Cost-benefit analysis shows that implementing a temporary, unapproved workaround to restore critical network connectivity within the hour would save significant operational downtime, but it involves bypassing a standard security authentication layer. What is the most appropriate course of action for a systems maintenance technician adhering strictly to the SMT regulatory framework? Option A. Implement the temporary workaround immediately to restore service, then document the bypass and seek formal approval for a permanent solution later. Option B. Immediately escalate the issue to management and security teams, providing detailed diagnostic data from approved monitoring tools, and request guidance on an approved emergency resolution procedure. Option C. Refuse to implement any solution that deviates from standard protocols, even if it means extended downtime, and insist on a full approved maintenance window for any fix. Option D. Proceed with the temporary workaround, assuming that the urgency justifies the deviation from standard security protocols, and address documentation and approval post-resolution. Correct answer is A. Implement the temporary workaround immediately to restore service, then document the bypass and seek formal approval for a permanent solution later. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge where a systems maintenance technician, SMT, must balance the immediate need for network restoration with the potential for long-term security vulnerabilities. The pressure to resolve a critical connectivity issue quickly can lead to shortcuts that, while seemingly efficient in the short term, may violate established security protocols and regulatory compliance. The technician must exercise sound judgment, prioritizing both operational uptime and data integrity/security, which are paramount in maintaining trust and adhering to industry standards. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, documented troubleshooting process that prioritizes security and compliance. This means utilizing approved network monitoring tools to gather data, identifying the root cause of the connectivity issue without compromising system integrity, and implementing a solution that adheres to established security policies and any relevant regulatory frameworks. This approach ensures that the resolution is not only effective, but also maintains the security posture of the network and complies with any applicable regulations, such as those governing data protection or critical infrastructure. By following documented procedures and security best practices, the technician upholds professional responsibility and minimizes the risk of future incidents. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that bypasses security protocols to expedite the fix is ethically and regulatorily unsound. Such an action, even if it resolves the immediate connectivity problem, creates a significant security risk. It could expose sensitive data, violate data privacy regulations, e.g., GDPR if applicable, or similar national data protection laws, and potentially lead to unauthorized access. This failure to adhere to security policies is a direct breach of professional duty and could result in severe consequences for the organization, including fines, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. Another incorrect approach is to implement a quick fix without proper documentation or verification. This not only hinders future troubleshooting efforts by obscuring the actual cause and resolution, but also fails to meet audit requirements. Many regulatory frameworks mandate detailed logging and documentation of all system changes and maintenance activities. Failing to document can be interpreted as a lack of due diligence and can lead to non-compliance with audit trails required by regulatory bodies. A third incorrect approach is to rely solely on anecdotal evidence or past experience without utilizing the approved network monitoring tools. While experience is valuable, it should be augmented by objective data. Ignoring the capabilities of tools like Wireshark or SolarWinds means missing critical diagnostic information, potentially leading to an incorrect diagnosis and an ineffective or even detrimental solution. This can also be seen as a failure to utilize company-provided resources effectively and to follow established operational procedures, which are often designed to ensure accuracy and compliance. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should adopt a structured decision-making process. First, understand the immediate impact of the issue and the urgency. Second, consult established troubleshooting guides and security policies. Third, utilize approved diagnostic tools to gather objective data. Fourth, identify the root cause, considering both connectivity and security implications. Fifth, implement the most secure and compliant solution, documenting every step. Finally, verify the resolution and update documentation. This process ensures that operational needs are met without compromising security or regulatory adherence.